Hello everyone and welcome to our Sciences Po Live broadcast dedicated to the Sciences Po Masters in Economics. My name is Adrien Kenneth and I serve as Marketing and Recruitment Manager at Sciences Po. I am truly delighted that so many of you are able to be with us today, so whichever part of the world you are connected from today, welcome to you all and thank you for being with us. We are going to be together for about 20 minutes to give you the most up-to-date information on the Sciences Po Master in Economics. To do so, several guests are with me today. And to start with is Pierre-Philippe Combe, Head of Graduate Studies in Economics and Academic Advisor of the Master in Economics at Sciences Po. Pierre-Philippe, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi everybody, and thank you for the opportunity.
And we also have two student and graduate with us today remotely, are Olivia and Norbert. Thank you for being with us. You are graduate and student of the Master in Economics. We'll get back to you in just a moment. Now to you viewers watching us live today on YouTube, should you have any question at this point, know that you can ask your questions in the chat module of this YouTube Live, and our three guests will be more than happy to answer a few of those questions in the second part of this broadcast. Now let's get started, and my first question goes to Pierre-Philippe Combe. Pierre-Philippe, as a start, could you tell us what are the academic objectives of the Master in Economics?
Yes, please. Actually, the Master in Economics at Sciences Po is relatively unique in the sense that it trains both students that will then do a PhD and enter academic careers, or students who will go directly to the job market after the Master. So for that, we have, first we equipped students with all the tools that quantitative economics requires, thanks to 9 core courses in economics. And then we introduce students to a variety of domains of applications of these tools through specialized courses and the master thesis.
And we understand several disciplines are taught within the Master. What are the main subjects taught in this Master?
So yes, so the 9 core courses cover the 3 pillars of quantitative economics, which are microeconomics, macroeconomics, and econometrics. And then we have these specialized courses that are going to reflect the very large diversity of research interest of the members, of the faculty members of the Department of Economics. And then the list is very long and large. You can find it on the Master website. Typically, we have labor economics, international trade, development economics, environmental economics, industrial organization, financial economics, public economics, taxation, urban economics, and many other ones.
Now, Pierre-Philippe, what is the language of instruction of the Master in Economics?
So the program is fully taught in English, and actually the Department of Economics fully operates in English, first and before everything, because indeed the faculty members are coming from everywhere in the world. But there is no ideology behind the use of economics. This is really that if you want to work at the highest level in economics, for the moment, at least, as a matter of fact, you have to do it in English, and we take that as given. But typically, this is not literary English, and this is a very simple and coded language, and I like to make the parallel with the use of mathematics. In the end, what we want is a very simple and totally non-ambiguous language to be able to interact about economic topics, and the mix of mathematics and this simple English is really making us able to do that.
Thank you, Pierre-Philippe. Now, I understand students of the Master have the opportunity to do a dual degree with Université Paris 1, the dual degree in economics and quantitative economics. Could you give us a word on this program?
So yes, this is a possibility. So in that case, the student will not attend the first year of the master program at Sciences Po, but they will do it for the first semester at the University of Paris 1 and the second semester at one of the partner universities in Venice, in Barcelona, Warsaw, or Louvain-la-Neuve. I tend to advise students to enter this dual degree only if they have really a good technical skills and they are sure, typically they hold already a BA in economics and sure that they will succeed well in this program, which is slightly more technical. Otherwise, this is really by doing the 2 years at Sciences Po of the Master in Economics that you will have the full consistency of the program and the full consistency in particular of the 9 core courses.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Philippe. Now let's have a word with Norbert, one of our 2 remote guests today. Norbert, thank you again for being with us. You are a second-year student in the Master in Economics. You are originally from Hungary and Italy. You did your undergraduate studies at New York University in Abu Dhabi, where you majored in economics and political science. What made you choose the Sciences Po Master in Economics, Norbert?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for that question. For me, choosing Sciences Po was really a natural choice. Part of the reason why is because I've always been interested in economics, in the social sciences and policy, and choosing the masters in economics in particular was really for me a way to gain the technical foundational skills necessary to be able to consume and produce economic research.
Now, you mentioned your interest in economics, the social sciences, and public policy. Do you, Norbert, have a favorite class in the Master in Economics?
Yes, but there are so many. So I would like to highlight the fact that indeed the core sequence of microeconomics, econometrics, macroeconomics is quite a good, provides a very good foundation for being able to then understand and interact with economic research. And I also really enjoyed my elective classes. I would like to highlight labor economics, just because this was a subject I didn't know much about. And throughout the course, I was able to really become very appreciative of the deep theory as well as empirics that are behind this field and this subject.
Norbert, you worked at the OECD on environmental policy prior to doing the Master. How did your work at the OECD inspire you to pursue the Master in Economics?
Yes, I had the opportunity to work at the OECD on a number of different topics on the circular economy, on plastic pollution, on green fiscal stimulus, and climate change related topics as well. And it was really a great privilege to be able to work with policy experts as well as economists. And they inspired me to gain the same technical skills and to be able to produce the sort of deep policy analysis which I was able to experience and interact with during my work there.
Yeah, you worked at the intersection of economics and environmental policies, environmental questions at the OECD. Is your master's thesis, the thesis you are writing this year, about similar issues?
Indeed. So this is something I was trying to move towards. In my master's thesis, I look at the just transition. And in particular, I'm interested in learning what are the policies which can help coal-dependent communities in this transition, because we expect that climate policies are going to have distributional impacts on communities which are dependent on coal and fossil fuels in general. But we don't really know what policies are going to be most helpful. So in order to learn more about this topic, I look at the case of the Appalachian region in the United States, where there has been an important decrease in coal employment in recent years. And because of this, there has been also grants provided for this region to revitalize it, to diversify its economy and reskill workers. I find in my analysis that indeed these grants do help in reducing unemployment in the 4 to 5 year horizon, which then suggests that perhaps there is scope to increase and scale up these policies there.
Thank you, Norbert. Both your research work and your professional experience at OECD are at the crossroads of economics, obviously, but also environmental policy. Is it a subject you wish to work on after graduation?
Indeed, I've been interested in environmental policy and economics for a long time. And the reason is that I've noticed this sort of paradoxical or puzzling gap between the scientific consensus on climate change and also the policy consensus on what we should be doing to mitigate climate change. But there is a gap between this and the implementation. And I think in order to understand this gap, one needs to understand economics, one needs to understand the political economy of environmental policymaking, and I hope to be able to work in the future at the intersection of policy and research on this and similar topics.
Thank you so much, Norbert. Final questions. What advice could you give to an applicant willing to join the Master in Economics next year?
I would advise future applicants and students to really seek out connections throughout the discipline in economics. It's been around for a very long time, and there are very deep and profound ideas that have already been written down and detailed by early thinkers. So it's always good to go back into and learn more about the history of economic thought, and then relate back these old ideas to the new models that we do get to learn throughout the master's degree.
Thank you so much, Norbert, for your precious testimonial. Now back in the studio with Pierre-Philippe Combe. Pierre-Philippe, hopefully many of the viewers watching us live today are future applicants to the Master in Economics, future students to the Master in Economics. What is a typical Master in Economics applicant? What type of students are you looking for?
Actually, the students are from very diverse origins, both in terms of previous curriculum and countries. So typically, many students come from the undergrad program at Sciences Po, both French and foreign students from this program, which is a program, which is a broad program in social sciences, where indeed students have a bit of economics, but also political science, law, history, sociology. And actually, we also have students coming from such a broad curriculum in social science from British universities, North American universities, Australian universities. So this is, I would say, half of the core. The second half are students who already hold a bachelor in economics. And typically, we do manage, I think I can tell that, to propose them, the two type of students, to propose them a very interesting curriculum. Those who have done a BA in economics sometimes revisit a few of the tools that they have seen already, but they are going to go much more deeply in these topics. And the other one, we manage, we make sure that indeed they can attend and follow well the program. Maybe one word about the use of mathematics. For sure, students need to have some basic skills in mathematics, calculus, algebra, but not out of a very high level. I would say a high school, decent high school level. But what is the most important is to be motivated to really use these mathematical tools to tackle economic questions, and to be sure that all the students can do that and are able to do that. We start the program with a math boot camp in mathematics, where we actually represent all the mathematical tools that will be used in later courses, and therefore there is no problems for anyone.
So applicants should know that they need to have a basic knowledge of calculus and algebra, but most importantly, having the desire to grasp the mathematical tools of quantitative economics. A word on the size of cohorts. How many students do you have?
Compared to other programs in economics, this is a relatively small cohort, because we have 25, 30 students per year, and this bears many advantages. One being that there is really a very nice atmosphere between students, and really a cohesion of students, and also a very close proximity to faculty members. And therefore, really it's very easy for students to come and discuss with the faculty of the economics department about their research interests, research project, and this is, I think, very nice and important to succeed well in the program.
So it's a family-sized master with around 30 students. A word on the teaching methods. Are there any specific teaching methods in this master?
No, on this ground we are relatively standard. We are not using the modern recent techniques, reverse teaching, and etc. So typically for the core courses, these are standard lectures, 24 hours lectures, but also 24 hours of tutorial for each of the 9 courses. During the tutorial, the students are going to apply the tools and to solve problems using these tools. And therefore, in terms of assessment, also this will be relatively standard in class 2-hour exam, where students solve again problems, but again very similar to what they've done during tutorial. So in general everything goes well. For specialized courses, this is in general slightly different. These are more home exams that students do over a period of 2-3 weeks. Typically, they can read, for instance, a research article which they are going to summarize, criticize, and possibly propose some extensions, or they are going to develop their a small personal project, either in statistics, applied econometrics, or in modeling.
Now, we understand research is an important component of the master. What type of research students delve into? Can they also do internships?
So in terms of research topics covered by the students themselves during their master thesis, again, this just matches the variety of the topics we have at the economics department. So we have a web page dedicated to that on the master's program website, where we list a number of master theses, really the exact title, and you will see that the diversity and the originality is very, very wide. I can mention a few recent ones. One was about the impact of parents' schooling choice on spatial segregation across neighborhoods. Another one was on the impact of environmental crisis on financial crisis. Another one about the economics of drug in Afghanistan, and so on. Again, this is very diverse.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Philippe. Go on.
Intern, maybe. A word about intern. Indeed, we strongly advise students to do an intern between the 2 years, because here you have a pretty long period between typically end May and August. So indeed, you can do either a research-oriented intern if you then plan to go to PhD and academia, but also an intern in a private company if you plan more to enter the job market directly after the program. During the program, some students take part-time jobs. Here, we tend to cap it a bit in terms of number of hours per week, such that we are sure that this has no impact on the achievement of the attendance of classes and the achievement in the program. But typically, students can do a bit of research assistant, either with the faculty of the economics department or for professor anywhere in the world online. And this is nice because they acquire some research skills and they experience also the real life of research. Finally, the students can also take a gap year, a full gap year between the 2 years, during which they are going to do a 1 year intern, again, either fully research or in a private company.
So we understand students do research, they can do an internship, they can also hold a position as research assistant. Thank you very much, Pierre-Philippe. Now let's welcome our second remote guest, Olivia. Olivia, thank you again for being with us. You are a 2022 graduate of the Master in Economics. You are a second-year PhD student in economics at Sciences Po. You are originally from Greece, and you did your undergraduate studies at the University of Warwick in the UK. Olivia, could you tell us why you did choose to enroll in the Master in Economics?
Yes, so first of all, thank you for having me. I chose to enroll in the Masters because when I was in the UK at Warwick, I did a bachelor where I majored in economics. So I already had decided that I wanted to do a PhD. So I chose this master because it prepares you for the PhD. It's a PhD track, as we call it, master, which was harder to do, by the way, than going from in the UK. Sometimes you have to do an MSc before. So that was the advantage. But also because the Department of Economics at Sciences Po is really top-notch. It has leaders in fields that like urban, labor, trade, economics that I was interested in at the time, but also political economy, which I got more into later. And finally, because I noticed that it was a young department, and I kind of guessed that there would be a dynamism in that, and I was right about that.
Great. Well, it sounds like you were obviously satisfied with the program. What were you the most satisfied with in the program?
So the courses were very intensive and very high quality and prepared us very well for research afterwards. But what I can add, perhaps, as I was a class representative, and I can add something extra maybe on the experience of exchanging with professors, but also heads of the program. So including Pierre-Philippe, have been very attentive to our feedback and responsive, and they've made a lot of reforms and changes in the program, such as readjusting the workload and spreading it in a way that was more manageable for the students.
You mentioned you are currently doing a PhD in economics. What contributions did the Master in Economics make to your PhD?
So we received a lot of training in statistical softwares, which are very important nowadays, increasingly for empirical research, quantitative research. You need to have such training, but also for jobs outside of research and academia. So that was number one. And secondly, we had access to a series of seminars where speakers presented very frontier, cutting-edge research, which inspired me to formulate my ideas for my research. And finally, I did a part-time research assistant job in parallel to my master's studies, which helped as well.
Your research work is on the political economy of gender. What were the stages of building your research project during the master?
Right. So my master thesis focused on measured the effect of a new type of gender quota in elections on campaign finance allocation, and which was aimed at increasing the number of women in senior political office. And so the more kind of gradual personal motivation for that was that I had worked in political institutions as an intern before, and I had been very impressed by the sorting of women into more clerical jobs and of men into more leadership roles, which was not necessarily justified or efficient, at least in my eyes at the time when I was before the master's. And then during the master's, while working as a research assistant, I actually worked on the topic of political representation, and I saw it from a more academic perspective. And then I started exchanging with the leader of the professor that was leading the project and building a master thesis project in this way.
Your PhD thesis is entitled The Historical Political Economy of Gender. What is your research about?
So during the PhD, I became more interested in the long-run historical determinants of gender inequality and why gender equality progress comes faster or slower in different countries. And what we're used to thinking is that gender inequality is a function of development of a country. But for example, France, despite having being very developed and having an early progressive nature in terms of the Enlightenment and Revolution, it was relatively late in extending women's rights. So that's the kind of the mechanisms for this puzzle is what I'm focusing on.
Thank you, Olivia. Now, do you have an idea of the job you want to do after your PhD? What position you aim at after doing your PhD?
After the PhD, I'd like to work in academia or in policy making in some way.
Great. And final question, Olivia. Do you have any advice for future applicants and students on building their research project during their studies?
Yes, based on my personal experience at Warwick in my bachelor, I took on a bachelor thesis course, and I would advise anyone who has this option or similar to take it and to choose a good professor as a supervisor, because it's kind of a simulation, a first attempt at doing a bigger project, and this teaches a lot. And if you're not sure about the topic that you want to work on, go ahead anyways and find one with your supervisor, and then it's mostly the skills that you're going to acquire that will matter more than the actual topic.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for your precious testimonial and advice to students and applicants. Now, let's have a word again with Pierre-Philippe Combe. Pierre-Philippe, both Norbert and Olivia mentioned professional experience. How do graduates enter the job market?
Okay, so here again, there are kind of two tracks. If you want to do an academic career or work as a researcher, typically in an international organization, you need to have a PhD in economics. So after the master program, many students are going to enter a PhD, either at Sciences Po or in a university. Many are in Europe or in their country of origin. And again, this is right after the master. But more and more students are are taking 1 year to have a pre-doc position, during which they are going to work as a research assistant, and again, to acquire further skills in terms of coding, etc. But more importantly, I think to really realize what is the daily life of researcher and of academia, and also to mature their research project for the PhD. And after that, they do apply to PhD programs with a very high rate of success, and typically some of our previous students did enter the best program in the world. Recent examples are at Yale, at Berkeley, at Chicago, and so on. But as I said, you can also directly enter the job market right after your master thesis without doing a PhD. And then, in general, students are very efficient in finding jobs individually. But we also, because there are many jobs for quantitative economics, and the skills we propose are really well done for that. But we also help them in finding these jobs, because we do receive a number of propositions by ourselves. And typically, with IMF and OECD, we have a kind of agreement where they directly propose some jobs to us, and IMF even come to Sciences Po to present the careers you can do at IMF, and they even conduct interviews of students when they come and visit us.
Thank you very much. Now, in what sectors and what kind of organizations, you've been mentioning a few, but what sectors more broadly are graduates recruited in?
So again, in terms of sectors, academia, these are all the university a bit everywhere in the world. Again, we had very good placement in top universities in the US. So we have currently a former student at NYU Abu Dhabi, one in Singapore Management University, at University of Essex, at Chicago Booth, and etc. But also many of them work as, for instance, as financial analysts, as economists, statisticians, in banks, in consulting firms, in pooling firms, or also in many international companies. You have research and economic study departments, and this is places where the students can easily find some positions.
So a great variety of sectors and organizations and positions for graduates of the Masters in Economics. Thank you very much, Pierre-Philippe Combe. Now is the time for our Q&A session. Thank you very much, dear viewers, for the questions you've been asking in the chat module of this YouTube Live. Here is the first question to Pierre-Philippe Combe, a question about applications. Let me read it out loud for you. When applying to the Master in Economics, do applicants have to outline a detailed project for the master's thesis they will produce during the master?
So it's not at all compulsory. You can indeed, in your personal statement, you can indeed mention a number of research topics that for which you have some interest, and why you have interest in these topics. You can also mention whether at that time you think that indeed entering academia would be a good opportunity, or you prefer to not do a PhD afterwards. Again, we are equally fine for that. But precisely beyond the core courses I was mentioning, we have a number of periods and time in the program where typically during the first semester we have a 24-hour course where faculty members of the department are going to present some of their recent research interest in a non-technical way. And in the second semester, again, we have a second series of sessions where we will do that again. And typically, this will give students a broad view of all the research topics I was mentioning. And then, after that, students will realize that they have more interest in this and that. They will have meetings with the faculty members of the department that will propose them further readings, for instance, on this and that topic. The students will read that and then come back to the professors, and progressively the research project is going to be built. Again, either based on some indeed initial interest of the student, or in completely different fields. So this is done already during the first year of the master program, when the final topic has to be chosen only on the third semester of the second year, and which is really the master thesis being written in the fourth semester. So there is really a long period during which the students are going to elaborate their research project. And again, in general, this is a very smooth process, and in the end, the students are really working on their deep interest on their master thesis.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Philippe. Second question is for Norbert, second-year student in the Master in Economics. Norbert, let me read the question out loud for you. It's about curriculum. In addition to microeconomics, macroeconomics, and econometrics that are core courses of the curriculum, how much optional courses can students take and on what topics?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. I should mention that there are a number of electives throughout the master's degree. There are some electives in the first year which are part of the common curriculum, where you take classes together with other students from other masters in Sciences Po, and this is an excellent way to meet people from other disciplines and also to broaden your understanding of various topics. I've taken classes in ocean and ocean and climate dynamics, as well as courses on law and economics, for instance. And then the second year of the master's degree in economics really is about the field courses, the electives in economics. I've chosen a number of courses, such as, for instance, the one already mentioned, labor economics, but also urban and regional economics, where we look at the formation of cities, regional inequalities. We try to understand both the theory behind these processes, as well as how to quantify this and to look at it from an empirical perspective. Some other courses which I taken were on environmental economics, on political economy, but also on the empirical industrial organization, which is very interesting as well, and on computational economics. These are all courses which I think both broaden our understanding of the possibilities of within the discipline of economics in general, but also provide sort of a tool set to be able to then answer various questions, research questions, to try to see how across the various sub-disciplines within economics you approach certain questions, because those really can depend on a variety of things, and it can be very fulfilling and great experience in that sense.
Thank you very much, Norbert. Now we have the third question for Olivia. Olivia, let me read it out loud for you. It's about your professional experience as research assistant during your master's. How much did your professional experience as research assistant help you with defining and conducting your own PhD research?
Yeah, thank you. It was super critical because it was really the transition from being a student to working and seeing research as a job that has real time constraints like any other job, where you need to build management skills and you need to be efficient, and you also need to build collaboration skills, including something that is not maybe obvious in all workplaces, but in academic research and collaborations, complete honesty is very important, because one day when you're trying to build something that's as close to the truth as possible, you need to get all the facts right from the beginning, because you might stumble upon something later. So that was a very important lesson, and also patience, because research takes a lot of time. So yeah, it was super crucial to complement the conceptual lessons from the classes.
Thank you very much, Olivia. And then final question is for Pierre-Philippe Combe. Pierre-Philippe, now we understand a significant proportion of Master in Economics graduates pursue a PhD. Do students write their thesis, PhD thesis, on the same subject as their master's thesis subject?
So this is a good question. And about the first point, I should have mentioned that the small size of the cohort has another advantage, that given also that many students do not enter the PhD and etc., our rate of admission to the PhD program is pretty high compared to other places. So I think this is an important fact to know. And in terms of research topics, it depends. I tend to say that indeed, if you continue your PhD on the same topic as the topic that you chose for the master thesis, it will save a bit of time, because typically you have read a lot the relevant literature, you have started to think about many ideas, maybe some that were used for the master thesis, others are going to be used for the PhD thesis. But reversely, this is what is interesting in having this broad view of the research interest of the Department of Economics is that possibly you have tried one, you had two research interests during your master thesis and during your master degree, so you chose one for the master thesis, and then you realize maybe the second one was more interesting because also you continue to think about it, and then in that case, yes, there is absolutely no problem to switch to another topic or another professor. And as I said, also, if you take this year of doing a predoctoral, this is even more the case that the research interest and the research project of the students are going to evolve quite a lot in between.
Thank you very much, Pierre-Philippe. Now, our information session is now coming to an end. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for attending. Thank you to our guests, Pierre-Philippe, Olivia, and Norbert, for being with us today. We hope that we were able to answer the questions you had on the Sciences Po Master in Economics, and we hope to see you soon at Sciences Po. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.